What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going back to my original roots of the channel here, and I'm going to be doing a full first-round mock draft for all 32 NFL teams. Now, the special occasion for this being that the NFL Combine just came and went. So I'm going to be doing a few of these as the draft cycle goes on. So doing one the Monday after the NFL Combine. I'll probably do one a couple weeks into free agency once a lot of the big names drop. And then I'll probably do one right before the NFL draft, maybe like a 2 or a 3 round one, something along those lines. But it's nice to go back to the original content that was on this channel. As you know, or as you don't know, I'm just Jets focused right now. That is my favorite football team. And this channel is all about the New York Jets now. But I figured this would be a perfect time to unleash my full first round mock draft of the season. So we're going to start this draft here now at the Tennessee Titans, #1 overall. So now I know I just mentioned that I'm going to be doing one after free agency, but after really hearing that the Tennessee Titans are kind of all over the place with this #1 overall pick, where, you know, they could be dealing it, they could be not dealing it. I heard that the Jets are interested. I heard the Giants are interested. So what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to wind up sticking and picking, because there is a player here that obviously there's going to be the best player of the entire class. That goes without saying. It could be subjective, whatever. You could look at it 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future. But as of right now, there is a player that I think is far and away the best player in the entire class, and it's a position of need for the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be Abdul Carter for me with the #1 overall pick. I don't really think that the Tennessee Titans are that interested in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, to be quite honest with you. I do think they're going to be rather aggressive in the quarterback market in free agency. I know it's slim pickings compared to the last couple of years. We're not going to see the quarterback carousel that we saw the last few years. We've been spoiled, but Sam Darnold is a huge prize here. You know, Aaron Rodgers could be available as well. Justin Fields as well. There could be options here. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to go for a more established veteran presence at the quarterback position, maybe for a year or two. That's why I think Aaron Rodgers makes quite a bit of sense for them, and just focus on the 2026 quarterback class. But yeah, I think if you have the #1 overall pick, and you're not quarterback focused, your main objective is to take the best player available, literally the best player available, because if you have the #1 overall pick, that means that you have multiple areas of need. So Abdul Carter, in my opinion, is far and away the best player in the entire draft class. I think he's going to be the most impactful right away, maybe outside of the quarterbacks, depending where they land. Now, that's a huge blow for the Cleveland Browns at #2, because obviously it's no secret that Myles Garrett does not want to play for the Cleveland Browns anymore. That leaves him with next to nothing on the edge. So the Cleveland Browns are probably hoping that Abdul Carter slips past the #1 overall pick, or the Jets or Giants trade up to #1 so they can get a quarterback, and then Abdul Carter falls right into their lap. But that doesn't happen here in this scenario. So yet again, we're going to take the best player on the board at multiple positions of need, and that's going to be Travis Hunter. Now, in my opinion, I think Travis Hunter is a better wide receiver than he is corner, but I still think he is absolutely fantastic at both. There are times where he was absolutely locked down all season. I mean, the amount of snaps, the durability on this guy to play every single game on both sides of the ball. This guy is a superstar in the making. I think that this is easily a huge consolation prize for the Cleveland Browns if Abdul Carter does not fall to them at #2. The Cleveland Browns do need help at the wide receiver position. They do need help in the secondary as well. So Travis Hunter is the best of both worlds. He'll probably, if he's on the Browns, he'll probably see way more snaps at the wide receiver position, I would think, than at corner right away, just because Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, these guys are kind of have these positions locked down for the most part. But I would still think that he's going to play a multitude of snaps on both sides of the football. So Travis Hunter is the second overall pick here. Moving on to the Giants. By the way, there are no trades in this first round mock, so I just hope you guys know that from the first couple of picks. Obviously, the Giants don't have to trade up to #1 overall. Cam Ward falls right into their lap. Now, if you're asking me, I think there's only one quarterback personally that's worth a first round pick in this draft class, and I think that is Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward, if you line up the way that I categorize the quarterbacks, if you line them up in a starting spot, who do you think is going to be the most impactful right away? I know, again, that is subjective because of the landing spots that they fall in, but I don't think the Giants are necessarily that far off from being relatively competitive. And I think that getting a quarterback, we saw some great performances from Drew Lock, of all people, last year that really made the Giants rather competitive the last few weeks of the season. So you get someone in there like Cam Ward, you build the team around him, and I think you have your quarterback of the future. You don't have to give up assets. It's a number one thing as well. The Giants don't have the worst defense in the world either, so a couple things to build on here. You save your draft capital and you acquire more talent throughout the draft. So Cam Ward is going to be the pick here at number 3. Now 4 is tough. There are a bunch of players that I think fit here very well. Mason Graham fits here quite a bit. Tet McMillan is another player. I think he's a third-ranked player overall. I think that's really high for Tet McMillan. I have my reservations about him as a prospect. Really, just a matter of speed. I think he's a good route runner. He's got a huge catch radius, all that kind of good stuff. I think he's going to be a fine receiver at the NFL level. I think he'll be great, in fact. I just think the speed really scares me, and not running at the combine, and apparently he's not going to run at Arizona's Pro Day either, is a little telling, a little shy, in my opinion, of your speed. Just go out there and run it, man. We're expecting it to be in the 4.7s or the 4.8s, so anything below that is gravy at that point. So I do think one player that had a great combine that really solidified himself as a top 5 pick is going to be Will Campbell. Now, you got your franchise quarterback last year in Drake May. You saw some fantastic things from Drake May. I honestly think that if Drake May starts from game 1, I don't think that the Patriots are in the top 5. I think they'd probably be still in the top 10, but maybe closer to 8 or 9. So you have to protect him. The offensive line is easily the worst position group for the Patriots. Probably the worst offensive line in football, to be quite honest with you. And they need a powerhouse talent. And that's Will Campbell, in my opinion. Someone that could either be great as a left tackle or elite as a guard. I think at this point, you're just looking to add elite talent to the offensive line, and that's what Will Campbell brings. And I think that's an easy choice at number 4 here. So moving on to number 5, again, another pick here that can go one of many different ways here. I could see interior offensive line at number 5 is kind of crazy, in my opinion. Will Campbell would have been the pick for me if he made it past the New England Patriots, but he didn't. Interior defensive line is a huge need here, but the secondary is basically outside of Tyson Campbell. The cornerback position is basically all free agents going into 2025. And honestly, the players that they have on the roster, I don't really think are worth bringing back. I think you go younger, and I think you form an unbelievable duo with Tyson Campbell here. And it's going to be Will Johnson for me here. Yeah, Will Johnson, I don't think you overthink it. I think Jahdae Barron is a fantastic player, and I think that he is very close to Will Johnson, but I still think Will Johnson is the number 1 overall cornerback in this class. You don't overthink it. You have a top 5 pick. You have an unbelievable talent. A lot of people are worried about his long speed. Yeah, whatever. But think about it like this. Tyson Campbell's going up against your number 1 wide receiver, and then you have Will Johnson on your number 2 wide receiver. That's a very, very formidable young cornerback duo there, and I think the Jaguars absolutely lock it in here in the top 5. So Will Johnson's going to be the pick at number 5. For the Raiders, I really want to go Ashton Jeanty here, but I think Jeanty is a top 5 talent in the entire draft class. But as of right now, being that Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, I don't even know. I know Aiden O'Connell is on the roster. I don't even know if Gardner Minshew is under contract in 2025, to be honest with you. But regardless, they need to get a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is still on the board. As of right now, I think, like I said, with the Tennessee Titans, I think that they are going to be heavily invested in the quarterback market in free agency or through trade. Matt Stafford was probably their number 1 option, but then he kind of leveraged the Giants and the Raiders into signing an improved deal with the Los Angeles Rams, so kudos to him. But yeah, I think the Raiders are going to establish their quarterback of the future. And I think this is a really, really good, this is probably the most ideal offense for Shedeur Sanders to fall into. Not really a terrible offensive line. Don't really have a run game, so that's really why GNT was in my opinion, a consideration for the number 6 overall pick as well. Decent wide receivers. You have Brock Bowers as well. Defenses, whatever. But yeah, offense, they have Chip Kelly as well. So I think that plays into Shedeur Sanders' strengths very, very well. I think this is the best landing spot for him, quite honestly. I saw a couple reports that Shedeur is falling on people's boards, but This is the Raiders we're talking about here. I think with Tom Brady, there's a notable relationship between Shedeur Sanders and Tom Brady. I think that this pick makes a lot of sense, and I think they're going to make it here. Well, as of right now, this could very well in free agency if they do get a quarterback for a long-term contract. I do think that pick could very well be Ashton Jeanty as well. So you have my New York Jets at number 7 here, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to go too much into it. This pick has to be Mason Graham, in my opinion. I think outside of the quarterback position, the defensive line was the worst position group. But the defense was just extremely underwhelming to begin with. Tackling, discipline. Well, the Jets under Robert Saleh were really never disciplined, to be quite honest with you. But it got worse under Jeff Ulbrich. Mason Graham, I think, solves a lot of problems for you next to Quinnen Williams on that defensive line. You're not going to be able to double team both of them. Mason Graham is a elite combination of speed and just overall brute power. And that's what I want on my defensive line. The Jets are at their very best when they're able to generate pressure. And they were able to generate pressure off the edge this year. Will McDonald had 10 sacks. They were able to do pretty decently for the most part. Quinnen Williams had another fantastic season, but it wasn't consistent from the interior. When you're double teaming Quinnen Williams and there's next to nothing next to you, Leonard Taylor was arguably the Jets' best defensive tackle besides for Quinnen Williams, and he was an undrafted free agent. But to be fair, he did play very well. But this could easily be, Tet McMillan here at number 7 or Luther Burden. This could be Malachi Starks. It could be Jahdae Barron, honestly. But I think you don't overthink it. You go with the defensive line here, the elite defensive line talent here. This also could be Tyler Warren, but I don't really think the Jets are hell-bent on getting a tight end at number 7 overall. I think that even though it's an area of need for the Jets, it still feels like a luxury pick, in my opinion. I do love Tyler Warren, and if the Jets on draft day did take him at number 7, I would not be mad in the slightest. I thought that would be great. I wanted them to take Brock Bowers last year over Olu Fashanu, but Fashanu has turned into a very, very fine player, very, very fine player for the Jets. So Mason Graham is going to be the pick here for me at number 7. At number 8 here, the Panthers, any way, shape, or form that you go with this, it has to be a defensive line pick, in my opinion, interior or pass rush. And I think it's going to be James Pierce. I think James Pierce had a fantastic combine, and I thought he was a top 10 talent to begin with. I think his combine solidified that. A 4.47 at his size. He's incredibly fast. His pass rushing bag is incredibly deep, and it's elite. I don't think that you overthink this. I think you take James Pierce. I think right now on the board, he's the second best defensive edge on the board. So you're going to take him defensive end. So whether he plays outside linebacker, whether he plays defensive end, I think he'll be fine at the next level. Carolina needs to upgrade their pass rush. On the offensive side, really, I mean, Tet McMillan would make a lot of sense here too. But on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line is very underrated. Bryce Young played some fantastic ball the second half of the season. The run game is figured out. Yeah, they could definitely use another weapon, someone that's probably going to be looked at as a number 1 overall target. Could use a tight end as well. But to be quite honest with you, this is a deep wide receiver class. I don't think you have to spend your premium first overall pick on it. I think that you go out and you get an area of need that's been a need for quite some time. So that is going to be my pick here. It's going to be James Pierce, number 8 overall. And then piggybacking off of that, I think that this pick is going to be a defensive end as well. So you have Cam Jordan, who's 36 years old. Peyton Turner declined his 5th-year option. Chase Young is a free agent. It seems like the Saints really can't get the defensive end position right, whether it be through the draft or through free agency. They have a really nice young defensive tackle in Brian Bresee. That's a really good player to build around as well. I think that they go out and they get possibly the biggest combine riser out of anyone, and that's going to be Shamar Stewart here. I mean, literally had quite possibly the greatest combine of any prospect ever. And I know that the combine is not the end-all be-all, and people are going to look at his 4.5 sacks on the season and go, oh yeah, real great production there. He led the Aggies in pressures. He led them in pass rush win rate as well. He's also very good against the run. He's probably one of the biggest athletic freaks that you're going to see around. I think Shamar Stewart makes a lot of sense. This also fits the type of defensive end that the New Orleans Saints typically go for. They go for the heavier, more powerful defensive ends. They're not going for those speed rushers that are under 255 pounds. They're going for a big, strong, athletic defensive end, and that's going to be Shamar Stewart here at number 9 overall. At number 10, there's a couple different ways I want to go for the Chicago Bears. If Shamar Stewart or James Pierce was still on the board, it probably would have been defensive end for me here. But interior offensive line is a huge need as well. I think number 10, even though Tyler Booker, I think, is a fantastic player, probably the highest floor of any player in the draft, in my opinion. I know that's really high praise for a guard, but he's just so squeaky clean. His technique is fantastic. His power is fantastic. I know he didn't score a high RAS score. It was like a 4.63 RAS score, but honestly, the tape is all I need to see. He is a fantastic football player, but that's not who I'm going with here. It's going to be Ashton Jeanty here at number 10. I just think it makes too much sense for Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is going to try and emulate what he did in Detroit, and they had a fantastic 1-2 punch in, Sonic and Knuckles in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to try and do that as well. Here, I don't know if DeAndre Swift is really the Sonic or Knuckles I'm looking for, but Jeanty is going to very easily just take over and be a workhorse in that backfield. He is quite possibly one of the greatest running back prospects I have ever seen. Put in one of the greatest college football seasons we've ever seen this past year, and he's a fantastic football player. This is someone that I think is really can't miss. He's going to be quite impactful from the moment that he steps on a football field. Jeanty is probably one of the most electric, if not the most electric prospects in this entire draft class, and I think he fits like a glove with Ben Johnson here at number 10. So now we have the San Francisco 49ers at pick number 11, a lot of different ways that they can go. So immediately what screams out to me is defensive line because of Robert Saleh. So Robert Saleh made his 9 defensive line rotation pretty famous when he was the defensive coordinator for San Francisco the first time around. Now he is back, and the defensive line, it's not in disarray. They could definitely use some rotational players behind Nick Bosa. They're probably going to release Javon Hargrave, so they're going to need another defensive tackle as well. I get it. This is a really deep defensive tackle class. The offensive line is slowly but surely deteriorating for them as well. They had a fantastic pick in the middle rounds last year in Dominic Pooney. He's someone that just really took off from the first game. He was out there destroying the Jets in his first ever start. So that's someone to build around as well. I think you go out there and you get an offensive lineman with the first pick here. The secondary is also falling apart. Travarius Ward is going to be a free agent. Tanaloa Hufunga is a free agent. There's a lot of moving pieces. I don't know if they're going to bring people back. Receiver could be in play here. Luther Burden is on the board as well. They just traded Deebo Samuel. But to be quite honest with you, I'm very okay going into the season with Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, and Jawan Jennings as my trio. So I don't think that is a first round need. Sure, in the middle rounds, later rounds, you can grab another receiver, sure. But I think you have to get an elite offensive line prospect here at number 11. And Armin Membu had a fantastic combine. I know it seems like I'm putting a lot of stock into the combine, but he was a fantastic prospect to begin with. Spent his entire career, or the last 2 years, I believe. I don't remember if he started at left tackle in his sophomore year, but I know his last couple of years, he has been anchoring down that right tackle position. Really, this is an offensive line. I know you're going to say, oh, but Trent Williams is close to retiring. You're going to need a left tackle. Membu is someone that is just so athletically gifted, so strong, so squeaky clean in his pass protection, really good run blocking as well. He's someone that I think you could put on either side of the offensive line, and he's going to stick for 10 to 12 years. Fantastic overall player. I don't think you overthink it here if he's on the board. I know Josh Simmons is really good, coming off of a big-time injury, though. Kelvin Banks is someone that has been anchoring down that left tackle position at Texas for the last couple of years, someone that also could slide inside. But Armin Membu is, to me, I think he's a better overall tackle prospect than both these guys, and he's here at number 11. We're going to take him. At number 12, you have the Dallas Cowboys, and again, another team that seems to be all over the place. Michael Williams is a player that they seem to be quite enamored with. Ted McMillan is on the board. Johnny Barron is on the board. Malachi Starks is on the board. This is a pick that I think can go anywhere. The offensive line is an area of need as well. But Luther Burden is on the board. Why not make one of the most insane wide receiver duos? It is a need, that's for sure. And with with Ashton Jeanty off the board. Omarion Hampton could be in play here as well, but they did have quite an extensive meeting at the Combine with Caleb Johnson. I think he's going to be their second round draft choice. I think he's going to be in play to be their second round draft choice, but Luther Burden is here. I think Luther Burden fits a lot better with CeeDee Lamb than Tet McMillan does. Luther Burden right away could be one of, if not the best wide receiver twos in football straight away. I think you don't overthink it. You go out and get another weapon for Dak Prescott. Luther Burden is going to be my pick here. And then the Miami Dolphins are a team that's really interesting as well. This is also a team that traditionally for me, when I was doing full draft content, was kind of tough to pick for. They kind of seemed to go all over the place. I didn't think Chop Robinson was really in play for them last year. I did think that they were going to solidify either the interior of the defensive line or the offensive line. Didn't do either. Also drafted another running back as well. So they're usually all over the place. I don't really know what to make of it, but what I do know is they need offensive line help desperately. They need secondary help desperately. They need defensive line help desperately. I think that their main thing, if Tua is their man going forward, and they are going to continue to invest in him, I think you need to invest in a left tackle prospect that also could play the right side or could play interior as well. And I just spoke about him when it came to the San Francisco 49ers pick. I'm going to speak about him again here. It's going to be Kelvin Banks Jr. I just think Tua has been so injured. The offensive line feels like it's been so neglected. Losing Robert Hunt last year was huge for them as well. Kelvin Banks is someone that I think could come in and at least solidify one of those positions, and you're not even going to have to worry about it. I know safety is huge, and Malachi Starks is still on the board. You know, tight end, they can get Tyler Warren here, add another weapon for Tua. But listen, the weapons can get open all they want. If he's running for his life, I don't really think he's going to be able to get the ball to them. So Kelvin Banks is my pick here at number 13. And at number 14, it's really just a choice between two for me, in my opinion, and they're right next to each other. Tyler Warren and Malachi Starks, but Mo Alley Cox and I believe Kyler Granson are both free agents this year, so I'm not going to overthink it. Tyler Warren is probably the best overall player on the board at number 14. This is not only a need, he's also probably the best player available. We're going to take Tyler Warren at number 14. So here's where it gets interesting for me. The Atlanta Falcons are a team that could use a lot. Tet McMillan is on the board, but I think Tet, honestly, I think Tet's game is really close to Drake London's. So I think Drake London is a great receiver, but I don't know about you. I don't want three of the same wide receivers on the field. I want different guys that could do different things. I want that gadget type of player. I want that speedy type of player, and I want that possession type of player. So I think having two possession-oriented wide receivers on the outside, I don't know. I would want to get a little bit more speed there. So Tet for me, honestly, doesn't make, I mean, if he's there, I'm sure that the Atlanta Falcons would probably take him, but I'm not going to take him here. Edge, linebacker, cornerback, corner, Jahdae Barron is on the board. Man, that would be such a great fit. But I'm going to take Jahad Campbell here at number 15. I think he makes a lot of sense long-term for the Atlanta Falcons. I think he kind of kills two birds with one stone. Linebacker is a big need for the Atlanta Falcons. And edge, he's someone that can, at his size, 6'3", 244 pounds, he can come off the edge as well. He could learn a lot from Caden Ellis as a pass-rushing linebacker. I think that Campbell would make a ton of sense long-term for the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to take him here at number 15. At number 16 here, again, another team that could just go so many different ways is the Arizona Cardinals. Often, I would take Armin Membu if he was here because Paris Johnson has locked down that franchise left tackle spot. You know, why not get your long-term bookend tackles? But he is not here, unfortunately. Guard Tyler Booker could be a sneaky play here. Edge, they just need a ton of help on the edge. But interior defensive line for me is where it gets really tricky for the Atlanta Falcons long-term. We're going to take Walter Nolan here. I think this is interchangeable with Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan. I just think Nolan is a little bit more pass rush oriented than Kenneth Grant. And I think Kenneth Grant could get to the quarterback with raw power, whereas Walter Nolan has that finesse and has that pass rushing bag as well as being a fine defensive run defender, So Walter Nolan is going to be the pick here for me at number 16. And then coincidentally enough, we're on the subject, we might as well get Kenneth Grant for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's what I'm going to do here. I fully believe that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to spend money to sign Jamar Chase to a long-term contract. I think they are going to somehow get another deal done with T. Higgins. They're going to keep that core together. Listen, look at the season that Joe Burrow put together. You're going to have to, the defense is really what let them down. You're really going to have to hunker down and start building that defense up again. They were very invested the last couple years through the draft in keeping Joe Burrow upright. I still think guard could be, I don't want to say in play here, but at some point soon, maybe Tate Ratledge in round 2, something like that, I wouldn't be opposed to. But here you have to solidify the defensive line. And I think Kenneth Grant is the best defensive lineman that's left on the board. 6'3", 345 pounds. I just talked about it. He is just a brute force, someone that could just use his strength. His overall athleticism is fantastic. He is a rare breed of a player, and he's a fantastic run defender as well. You have to start building up the defensive side of the ball if you want to compete. Joe Burrow had an MVP type of season, and they missed the playoffs. Crazy. I think you keep the offensive core together, you sign those players long-term, and you build the defense through the draft. So Kenneth Grant is going to be pick 17 here. Pick number 18, I talked about Tyler Booker a bunch of different times. I don't know if you guys knew when he was going to come off the board, but my God, the Seattle Seahawks probably have the worst interior offensive line in football, maybe only rivaling the New England Patriots. Tyler Booker is going to be the pick here for me. I mean, you could even argue a tackle depending on how you view Abe Lucas long-term. Charles Cross is a very fine player on the left side. Like I said, Abe Lucas is good when he's healthy, but that's the problem. What does his long-term health look like? This could easily be a tackle as well, but I think you have to solidify, first and foremost, you have to solidify the offensive line. I mean, getting one guy isn't really solidifying it, but it's making it a whole lot better. Anthony Bradford, I really don't think could start long-term. You have to just, you gotta build upon it. And I think Laken Tomlinson started at left guard for them last season. He is a free agent, probably a one-year stopgap. Don't know if you're going to bring him back, but if you do, maybe you bring him on the right side and you let Tyler Booker start at left guard. But you need to solidify the offensive line if you're Seattle. And he is, like I've talked about him before in depth, he's a fantastic player. Yeah, this is where Tet finally comes off the board for me here. I think long-term, this just makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be able to bring back Chris Godwin, or even if they want to. And Mike Evans is not in the long-term plans. I don't know how you view long-term. I view long-term about 3 to 5 years. Don't know if Mike Evans is still going to be playing football in 3 to 5 years, even though in his last year, he's probably still going to go over 1,000 yards. But I think Tet is a perfect replacement for Mike Evans long-term. And that's why we're going to take him here, just adding another weapon for Baker Mayfield. You already have Jalen McMillan, who looks like a very, very awesome number 2. So I'd be very comfortable, or he was a number 3 last year when everyone was healthy, but I'd be very comfortable having Mike Williams on one side, Tet on the other, and then having Jalen McMillan in the slot. So Tet is going to be, so they're going to have 2 McMillans on the team. I just realized that. When you're like going through things and you don't even realize it. So they're going to be the McMillan squared is going to be their nickname, I guess. At number 20, this is kind of tough. I think you have to get a weapon for Bo Nix. I think he did a lot with very little last year with a near 30-year-old Cortland Sutton. Marvin Mims actually turned out to be a bigger playmaker than expected. Troy Franklin contributed here. Devon Vele also contributed a decent amount as well. I think you got to go out and you got to get another weapon. I know Malachi Starks is on the board. I know Jahdae Barron is on the board here. 2 guys that can make a huge impact in the secondary. But I think Bo Nix did a lot with a little last year. I don't know if it's going to continue that way. I know that the wide receiver class is deep. You could target one probably in round 3 or 4, to be quite honest with you. I think we're going to have to get a tight end here. I love Colson Loveland. Someone that with his measurables really just solidified himself as a first round pick for me, in my opinion. Someone that was on the fringe to begin with. I thought that he was like a later first round guy. I think number 20 here is more than valid to take him. Tyler Warren is off the board. That is unfortunate, but Colson Loveland is a fantastic consolation prize. I think he automatically becomes not only the safety blanket, potentially the best target for Bo Nix long term. So we're going to take him here at number 20. At number 21, quarterback is off the table. Jahdae Barron, again, I'm just going to keep saying his name over and over and over again, is in play here. But Another Longhorn that did fantastic in the combine that, in my opinion, solidified himself as a first-round pick is Matthew Golden, 4.29 speed. This is something, I mean, yes, Calvin Austin has fantastic speed. You need someone that is more of he is just a deep threat, someone that's going to catch a 50-yard bomb every 3 weeks, and that's really it. Calvin Austin is your wide receiver 3. George Pickens is a great wide receiver 1 when you have a legitimate wide receiver 2 on the other side of the field. And why not someone like Matthew Golden that could stretch the field, that could do a little bit of everything? He was fantastic for the Longhorns this past season. I do get the Emeka Egbuka pick here as well. I just think Golden fits what this offense is looking for a little bit better. He is that speedster that could play on the outside that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for, where Egbuka is that smart, savvy slot route runner that you're looking for. He also has a ton of speed, but he's someone that is going to beat you first and foremost with his savviness, not his speed. So Golden, I think, fits what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for a little bit better. So moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers here. This is a team that, are there any other first-round tight ends on the board? I personally don't think so. I think there's a couple areas of needs here. Mike Green is interesting here. Any of the edge rushers that are still on the board are quite interesting here. But J.K. Dobbins is a free agent. Gus Edwards is Gus Edwards. What you see is what you get. Kamani Vidal didn't really have as good of a rookie season as people thought he was going to have here. I think if you want to continue to play the same brand of football that the Chargers did last year, I think that you're going to have to go out and get a workhorse 3-down back. And I think that there's another running back on this board that is a first-round pick, and that's going to be Omarion Hampton for me. This might be my surprise first-round pick for this draft, but I think it makes a ton of sense. You're looking for someone, and you still have that perfect contrast with Gus Edwards, who's under contract for another year, that could just run right through the tackles, that could just be that bowling ball running back. And then you have Hampton that could do that could run outside the tackles, that could receive. He's just kind of going to be your all-around type of guy long-term. And I think, like I said, if you want to keep playing the same brand of football, Justin Herbert didn't have to carry the team on his back this past year, and he had a fantastic season statistically. So I think Omarion Hampton makes a lot of sense here at number 22. At number 23, yes, I've mentioned his name 7,000 times already. This pick just makes a ton of sense to me here. Not another wide receiver that I think that's on the board that could be a wide receiver 1 long-term. So that's off the board for me here. I think corner just makes way too much sense. Jahdae Barron is on the board, someone that could be the first corner off the board at number 5, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't even bat an eye at that. But Eric Stokes is a free agent. Jair Alexander is as good as traded at this point. I think you start fresh. You get someone like Jahdae Barron who could really play anywhere in the secondary. He could play in the slot. I don't think they need to. I think Carrington Valentine is their slot corner. They also drafted, was it Javon Bullard they drafted? I believe it was Javon Bullard they drafted. I could be wrong about that, but he also put in a pretty decent rookie season. I think you continue to get young in the secondary. You get Jahdae Barron to be your new cornerback 1 or 2, depending on what happens in free agency. At number 24 here, this is just a best player on the board scenario, to be quite honest with you. I think Malachi Starks makes a lot of sense for a Brian Flores-led defense. I know that they need corner help, but if you do remember, there were reports before the combine that a lot of teams could ask Malachi Starks to play boundary corner as well. So he's someone that I think at his size and speed and his overall frame could survive on the outside for sure. But also, he's just one of those pieces to the puzzle. You have to think that Harrison Smith is getting closer to retirement as well. What's his name? Cam Bynum is a free agent as well. So, why not go out there and get a chess piece that you could put all around the secondary? I think this is a very Brian Flores influenced pick, and he's the best player on the board, in my opinion. I think Malachi Starks is still, despite for what Nick Emanwari did in the combine, I think Malachi Starks is still far and away the best safety in the class. I think you take him here at number 24. I know that Vikings fans are going to have flashbacks the last time they took a Georgia safety in the first round. I get it, but Malachi Starks is not Louis Cine. Number 25, we just spoke about Nick Emanwari. Now, I know people are probably going to crucify me. Oh, Emeka Egbuka is on the board. He's, a perfect wide receiver 2 for Nico Collins and when Tank Dell comes back healthy. Very true. I agree with you. But if you look at the depth chart of the Houston Texans, not only is basically every single backup secondary player a free agent, I think they have a starter in the secondary as a free agent as well. I think when you have a defensive-minded coach like DeMeco Ryan, and you have a player as physically gifted as Nick Emmanwori was on the combine, 6'3", 220 pounds, a freak of an athlete, someone that we just spoke about, you could put Malachi Starks anywhere in the secondary. Not only could you put Nick Emmanwori anywhere in the secondary, you could even have him play in the box too. You could have him play as a linebacker, like a Jamie and Sherwood type of player, like a hybrid. He is just someone that I think that a defensive-minded coach like DeMeco Ryan would have so much fun with, and he would make that secondary so much better. Why not continue to build that secondary? This might not be an unpopular pick for the Houston Texans, and I fully understand that, but I'm taking Nick Emmanwori here at number 25. And at number 26, this is where Emeka Egbuka comes off the board because the Rams are seeking to trade Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is the wide receiver 1 now. Demarcus Robinson is a free agent. I think Jordan Whittington is actually going to play a significant role in the offense next year, but you got to get another wide receiver on top of that. So Emeka Egbuka, like I said before, could be the perfect replacement for Cooper Kupp. Like I said, he's not the fastest, but he has speed. He's going to beat you with his savvy and his route running ability. And if there was a perfect replacement for a player in this draft, it's Emeka Egbuka for Cooper Kupp, in my opinion. So we're going to take him at 26. At number 27 here, a lot of different ways we can go. Mike Green, Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, all these guys are still on the board that make a ton of sense for the Baltimore Ravens. But with Patrick McCarry being a free agent and Ronnie Stanley being a free agent as well, I think Josh Simmons makes a lot of sense here. This is a player that a lot of people forgot about. To be quite honest with you, if Josh Simmons played the entire year and was able to test athletically, I think he'd be the first tackle off the board. So why not take him here at 27? He's going to be fully healthy by the time training camp comes around. That is your left tackle of the future, someone that's an absolute stonewall, so gifted athletically as well. He was a lot of people's offensive tackle 1 in this class before he got injured, and then he kind of got forgotten about. Now he's back. Now he's going to be fully healthy. I think this is a steal for the Baltimore Ravens at number 27, and you're solidifying the offensive line because without Stanley, without Mercari, this is going to be a very different looking group next year. So you got to start with someone like Josh Simmons as well, in my opinion. So we're going to take Simmons here at number 27. And at number 28, there's so many different ways that you can go here, but I just think Mike Green contrasts Aiden Hutchinson so well. Even though Aiden Hutchinson is a little bit of everything, he's got the speed, he's got the quickness, he's got the power, he's got the pass rushing bag. Mike Green is just someone, if he's the secondary rusher that you have to worry about, he doesn't have to be that primary guy. You could have Aiden Hutchinson on one side, Mike Green on the other. That is a devastating combination, especially with DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil in the middle. I mean, that's a devastating front four there, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to take Mike Green here at number 28. And then this is a toss-up for me, in my opinion, between Mykel Williams and Jalen Walker. But I know that Dan Quinn likes those smaller, well, I'm going to say Micah Parsons is a little bit smaller because technically as an edge rusher, he is a little bit smaller. But he likes those smaller, super athletic, super fast edge rushers. And I think this is one of the few teams in the league that Jalen Walker could actually start as an edge on. And that's going to be the Washington Commanders here at number 29. Mykel Williams still makes a lot of sense. He's a little bit of a bigger edge, though. Like I said, Dan Quinn likes those smaller, faster, more athletically gifted edge rushers. And I think this is a big time need. I think Dante Fowler you didn't expect the sack production that you were going to get out of him this year. I think they went into this offseason knowing that they're going to have to address the defensive line. And I think Jalen Walker makes a lot of sense here at number 29. At number 30, there's a lot of different ways that you can go here. And this is honestly the pick that I was the most unsure of, I guess I would say, because there's so many different ways. I wanted to honestly, with the way that the secondary is looking, with, free agency and all that, I think Xavier Watts would make a lot of sense here as a sneaky first round pick, back end of the first round pick. He's not going to be there by the time the Bills pick in the second round. But Mykel Williams is a player that I don't think the Bills expect to be on the board here. Edge is a big-time need. Just defensive line in general is a big-time need for the Buffalo Bills. And I think if Mykel Williams is on the board here, I think you run that card up to the podium and you make that selection. So Mykel Williams is going to be the pick here for me. Could be a wide receiver. It is a deep class. Like I said, secondary, I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Emanwari was to get to this spot. I wouldn't be surprised if it was him, but he doesn't. And Mykel Williams is here. That makes a lot more sense in my opinion. Maybe another surprise pick here at number 31, but I think this absolutely has to be offensive line. I don't think that, if you think about it, the two times that the Kansas City Chiefs lost the Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era, he got dominated defensively. Like, had no time to throw, was getting sacked constantly. What did he get sacked? 7 times both games or something close to that? He got peppered both times. I think offensive line, you have Joe Tooney playing left tackle, who was an all-pro guard. So I know, he's an all-pro guard, not the same position. You're not dealing with the same type of athletes on the interior that you are on the outside. He needs to go back and play guard. They franchise tag Trey Smith. That's perfect. They're going to get a long-term deal squared away with, hopefully. Right tackle is a bit of a concern still, but you got to focus on left tackle here. And I'll be honest with you, there's a couple great guys here. Bray Zabel, fantastic player. Josh Connerly as well. Don't let that one rep against Mike Green at the Senior Bowl fool you. He's still a fantastic prospect. I love what Donovan Jackson can do on the outside. He is someone that literally last year was spot starting once Josh Simmons got hurt. He was spot starting at left tackle and then turned into an absolute shutdown left tackle with some of the best athleticism for the position you'll see. I think that he has a real bright future as a left tackle. And this seems like a very Kansas City Chiefs pick. This is not only someone that could start at left tackle, he could start at guard, he could start at right tackle as well. A very, very technically sound, athletically gifted player. I'm going to take Donovan Jackson here at number 31. And then with the final pick in this mock draft here, I have to go with Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton just makes a lot of sense. Brandon Graham is a free agent, probably going to be retiring. Josh Sweat is a free agent as well. Milton Williams is a free agent. This is a player that you could put anywhere. And also, the Philadelphia Eagles like those bigger, thicker outside linebackers. You look at Josh Sweat, you look at Brandon Graham. Those are guys that are 260 plus pounds as an outside linebacker. You look at Milton Williams. Nick Scorton is someone that could play up to, 280 pounds. That could be your Milton Williams replacement as well. He's just a player that I think is a very Howie Roseman pick. If they don't trade for Myles Garrett or a different edge rusher, I think that they're going to be drafting one. I think Nick Scorton makes a lot of sense here for them. Derek Harmon is another player that I think is great. At 313 pounds, he has insane athleticism as well. He could be your Milton Williams replacement, but I think Howie Roseman is going to prioritize that outside linebacker edge position, and I think Nick Scorton fits that frame that Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles are looking for. And ladies and gentlemen, just like that, there you have it. There is my first round mock draft of the 2025 draft cycle. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. I'm going to be doing this again a couple more times, after free agency and then right before the NFL draft. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know this isn't a Jets-centered video like usual, but I had a lot of fun doing this, a lot of fun kicking back the clock to last year. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed and hope I see you in the next one.